Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered why a tiny trace element weighing just a few milligrams in your body can determine a child's intelligence for their entire life? Today we are going to explore iodine and iodine deficiency disorders (IDD) and understand its biology, deficiency effects and prevention strategies. Let us begin by understanding iodine as a geochemical penalty. Iodine is naturally washed from mountainous and sloped terrain, leaving inland populations fundamentally penalized by their geography. 90% of human iodine intake comes from locally grown food, while only 10% comes from water. Now let us look at the 50 microgram biological imperative. The healthy adult body contains approximately 15 to 50 milligrams of iodine as its total body pool. 70 to 80% of this total reserve is exclusively concentrated within the thyroid gland, representing targeted storage. Normal blood levels maintain a strict circulating baseline of 8 to 12 micrograms per deciliter. Iodine's prime function and its primary, non-negotiable biological role is acting as the integral structural component of thyroid hormones, namely triiodothyronine T3 and thyroxine T4. Let us now understand the dietary balancing act and the Goitrogen threat. In terms of metabolic homeostasis, seawater contains 0.2 milligrams per liter of iodine, and sea fish, spongy shells, dairy, and crops grown in iodine-rich soil provide the essential baseline. However, there are metabolic blockers to be aware of. Cyanoglycosides and thiocyanates found in raw brassica vegetables act as goitrogens, hijacking and blocking the thyroid's ability to utilize circulating iodine. The good news is that thermal degradation through heating or cooking effectively inactivates these goitrogenic compounds. Moving on to digestion, absorption, and thyroid trapping. In the process of gastric conversion, dietary iodate is rapidly converted into iodide. Through rapid absorption, iodide distributes instantly into extracellular fluid. Through active transport, 75% of daily intake is actively pumped into the thyroid gland. In terms of plasma clearance, the thyroid filters hundreds of liters of plasma daily to secure 60 micrograms. In terms of synthesis, two-thirds of this iodine becomes bound to thyroglobulin, while the remaining one-third returns for renal excretion. Let us now compare the biological workload matrix between a healthy thyroid and an iodine-deficient thyroid. In a healthy thyroid, the daily plasma cleared is at standard volume, thyroid-stimulating hormone TSH levels are suppressed or normal, and the anatomical outcome is normal gland size, producing adequate T3 and T4. In an iodine-deficient thyroid, the daily plasma cleared increases to several hundred liters per day to extract trace iodine. TSH levels become highly elevated, and the anatomical outcome is thyroid hypertrophy, goiter, which occurs as a forced compensatory mechanism. This process is governed by the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid circuit. The hypothalamus, acting as the thermostat, releases thyrotropin releasing hormone TRH. The anterior pituitary, acting as the amplifier, releases thyroid stimulating hormone, and the thyroid gland, acting as the engine, produces T3 and T4. In iodine deficient environments, T4 levels drop, and the loss of negative feedback causes the pituitary to flood the system with TSH, forcing the thyroid to radically enlarge or develop goiter to cope with the increased workload, a process called consumptory hypertrophy. Let us now understand iodine's role as the physiological architect of the body. In terms of neurological maturation, it is absolutely essential for normal protein metabolism in the central nervous system and the developing brain of the fetus and neonate. As a cellular engine, it regulates cellular oxidation, calorigenesis, and global intermediary metabolism. In terms of energy mobilization, it promotes glycogenolysis, lipolysis, glucose uptake by adipocytes, and intestinal absorption. And in terms of structural building, it drives systemic protein synthesis and vital nitrogen retention. Now let us look at the escalating daily demands of iodine across life stages. Infants require 50 micrograms per day, children require 100 micrograms per day, adults require 150 micrograms per day, and pregnancy requires 200 to 250 micrograms per day. Adopting World Health Organization guidelines to accommodate the immense metabolic tax of fetal development. Let us now understand iodine deficiency disorder as a lifelong thread architecture. At the fetal stage, deficiency can cause intrauterine death, miscarriage and stillbirth, congenital anomalies, and endemic cretinism. At the neonate stage, it can cause neonatal goiter and neonatal hypothyroidism, which affects 1 in 10 infants in severe regions. At the child and adolescent stage, it can cause goiter, retarded physical development, impaired mental function, and delayed motor milestones and speech defects. And at the adult stage, it can cause goiter complications, hypothyroidism characterized by lethargy and bradycardia, infertility, and spontaneous hyperthyroidism in the elderly. A particularly critical period is the fetal catastrophe, occurring during the 14 to 18 week window. In early pregnancy, maternal thyroxine is the exclusive driver of fetal brain growth, and if the maternal diet is deficient, the fetus cannot compensate. This mid-second trimester period, spanning weeks 14 to 18, is when the neurons of the cerebral cortex and basal ganglia are rapidly formed. During this exact overlapping window, spanning weeks 10 to 18, the cochlea is also formed, which governs auditory function. The consequence of a thyroxine deficit during this window is that it slows cellular metabolism, leading to cellular hypoplasia, reduced interneuronal connections, and permanent irreversible brain damage. Let us now examine the anatomy of endemic goiter. More than 30% of goitrous subjects in endemic areas are functionally decompensated and hypothyroid, despite the adaptive enlargement of their thyroid gland. Goiter is graded into grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and multinodular forms based on severity. It is important to understand that goiter is not merely cosmetic, but represents an endocrine system pushed to structural failure, resulting in chronic lethargy and drastically reduced human energy and economic work capacity. Let us now look at the dual phases of endemic cretinism. Neurological cretinism originates from severe thyroxine deficiency strictly confined to the in utero or neonatal stages, and its primary phenotype is severe irreversible mental retardation. Its key deficits include deaf mutism, spastic diplegia, a form of extrapyramidal spasticity, and squints or strabismus. Despite this severe neurological damage, stature is often normal in physical growth post-birth. On the other hand, Myxedematous cretinism originates from continuing lifelong severe hypothyroidism from the fetal stage through all phases of life, and its primary phenotype is mental retardation combined with severe metabolic failure. Its key deficits include clinical myxedema and stunted sexual development, along with pronounced dwarfism in stature. This brings us to the concept of the cretinoid iceberg. Endemic cretinism represents fully manifested clinical cases, historically affecting 1 to 2% of the population in severe endemic regions. However, beneath this visible tip lies a hidden majority, the cretinoids, who are tenfold greater in number and are characterized by lesser degrees of mental retardation, speech, hearing, and gait defects, and psychomotor retardation. In areas of mild to moderate iodine deficiency disorder, the average intelligence quotient of school children is severely depressed by 10 to 12 points compared to non-deficient populations. Let us now understand the anatomy of socio-economic stagnation caused by this deficiency. The combination of environmental geochemical penalty and an unchecked hypothalamic pituitary thyroid feedback loop results in irreversible IQ loss of 10 to 12 points, leading to generational socio-economic stagnation. Because the deficiency is geological rather than dietary, individual choices cannot reverse the trend, which is why a universal public health shield is required. Now let us look at laboratory diagnostics and surveillance methods. In terms of serum superiority, serum T4 levels are a vastly more sensitive and accurate indicator of thyroid insufficiency than T3, making P4 the primary diagnostic benchmark. In terms of TSH monitoring, elevated pituitary thyrotropic hormone provides direct, measurable evidence of the physiological struggle to maintain thyroid function. And in terms of neonatal cord blood testing, the prevalence of neonatal hypothyroidism assessed via cord blood screening serves as a highly sensitive, real time indicator of environmental iodine deficiency in a given community. Let us also look at diagnostic biomarkers used at the population level. Palpation and ultrasound methods are useful historically, but become highly difficult to interpret once salt iodization programs begin and structural changes halt. Prevalence rates are assessed through the evaluation of Goiter and Cretinism prevalence via field surveys, palpation, or ultrasonography, and the median urinary iodine concentration MUIC serves as the definitive proxy for tracking current population level iodine intake, since 70% of absorbed iodine is excreted in urine, making this a non-invasive, cost-effective test. Now let us look at the MUIC diagnostic heat map for school-age children. A concentration below 20 micrograms per liter indicates severe deficiency. 20 to 49 micrograms per liter indicates moderate deficiency. 50 to 99 micrograms per liter indicates mild deficiency. 100 to 199 micrograms per liter indicates adequate nutrition. 200 to 299 micrograms per liter indicates levels above requirements, and 300 micrograms per liter and above indicates excessive levels. The target for a healthy population is that less than 20% of values should fall below 50 micrograms per liter. For pregnancy and lactation, the MUIC targets differ. For pregnant women, a concentration below 150 micrograms per liter is considered insufficient, while 150 to 249 micrograms per liter is the adequate target. For lactating women and children under 2 years, a concentration below 100 micrograms per liter is considered insufficient, while 100 micrograms per liter and above is the adequate target. There is an important physiological discrepancy here, as although lactating women have the exact same dietary requirements as pregnant women, their MUIC target is lower because large amounts of iodine are actively excreted into breast milk to supply the growing infant. Let us now understand the threat of excess iodine. A concentration of 300 micrograms per liter and above in the general population, or 500 micrograms per liter and above in pregnant women, signals a warning zone. This excess can lead to iodine-induced hyperthyroidism, where excess iodine triggers overproduction of thyroid hormones, accelerating metabolism. It can also trigger autoimmune thyroid disease, where chronic excess can initiate or exacerbate autoimmune responses, leading to tissue damage, and it can cause spontaneous hyperthyroidism in the elderly, a specific adult iodine deficiency disorder complication triggered by a sudden influx of iodine, often from dietary sources or supplements. Let us now look at the salt fortification pipeline used for prevention. The National Iodine Deficiency Disorders Control Program shifted global strategy to universal salt iodization using potassium or sodium iodate. At the production source, salt is fortified at 30 parts per million. Due to the Legal Prevention of Food Adulteration Act mandate, which accounts for transit loss, this level is maintained at 15 parts per million by the time it reaches the consumer. This precise logistical ratio ensures that a standard consumption of 10 grams of salt delivers exactly 150 micrograms of bioavailable iodine to the consumer. It is also important to understand volatility and surveillance related to iodized salt. In terms of sublimation, which represents the risk, iodine possesses the physical property to sublimate, meaning it turns from solid to gas and is constantly lost from the salt vehicle over time. As a rule of thumb, iodized salt should be consumed within 6 months of iodization. In terms of detection, which serves as the safeguard, simple, inexpensive United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund rapid test kits are deployed to detect iodine levels in salt at the community level, ensuring the protective shield remains intact during transit and storage. To bring everything together, let us look at the complete clinical blueprint. In terms of physiology and requirements, iodine is an essential micronutrient, with the adult body containing 15 to 50 milligrams, 70 to 80% of which is in the thyroid, and normal blood levels of 8 to 12 micrograms per deciliter. The process involves trapping, where the thyroid clears hundreds of liters of plasma daily, synthesis, where triiodothyronine with 3 iodine atoms and thyroxine with 4 iodine atoms are formed, and systemic effect, where cellular oxidation, thermoregulation, and early fetal brain development are regulated. In terms of sources versus antagonists, 90% of intake comes from food and 10% from water, highly dependent on soil geochemistry, with severe washout occurring in sub-Himalayan regions. Good sources include seafood, sea salt, cod liver oil, dairy, eggs, and fortified salt, while inhibitors, the Goitrogens, found in brassica vegetables like cabbage, cauliflower, and radish, contain cyanoglycosides and thiocyanates or glucosinolates that block iodine uptake, though these are inactivated by heating. In terms of the iodine deficiency disorder spectrum across life stages, the fetus faces risks of miscarriage, stillbirth, congenital anomalies, and endemic cretinism, with a critical damage window of 14 to 18 weeks. The neonate faces neonatal goiter and neonatal hypothyroidism, a highly sensitive indicator of community deficiency. The child and adolescent face goiter and impaired mental function, with an average IQ drop of 10 to 12 points, along with retarded physical development. And the adult faces goiter hypothyroidism with lethargy, bradycardia, poor cold tolerance, and myxedema, along with infertility. Finally, in terms of evaluation and prevention, the median urinary iodine concentration remains the gold standard for school-aged children between 6 and 12 years, with a pregnant target of 150 to 249 micrograms per liter, all supported by the National Iodine Deficiency Disorders Control Program's Universal Salt Iodization mandate. To conclude, iodine truly stands as the trace element that shapes humanity, silently determining brain development, physical growth, and generational potential through a single tiny yet irreplaceable micronutrient. Hope you have understood about iodine and iodine deficiency disorders. If you found this video useful, please like and share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you.